So if testing would have to have this kind of history, we would be golden, wouldn't we? So I've been asked to talk to you about some of the projects that I've been through for performance testing. Now, you might ask why. Well, I'm just passionate about testing. And I started out, I'm not going into the demographics of how old everybody is, but I started out quite some time ago, being from test management or technical person to what I'm doing now. And I would like to know here, well, I will put one question or two, three questions about it. I would like to know who's in the audience. I will not ask for names, but just about who's a manager. Okay. All right. Developers? Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say if we were sitting in the other room that we would put managers to one side, developers to the other side, and give everybody a hammer to hammer down to the heads of the testers, because everybody else here is outnumbered by testers. But anyhow, so I would like to put the pressure on you. I have prepared for you about 3 projects. Come on. Technology. There it goes. And I want to ask to you, do you know what load testing is? Has anybody of you done some load testing or performance testing? A couple. Who doesn't know about performance testing? How does it work? What do we do? Okay. So, yeah, there it goes. I think there's a latency on my system. So what it happens is when we do some performance testing, we're looking to some actions, events. And we try to do this either manually, by following some scripts, or we do this by using tools. And tools are like a video camera that is registering what the actions that you are doing. And once we've done that, what we try to do is to simulate those actions from the recordings. So the thing is going all ballistics. So this is how we simulate this. We use a kind of controller machine, run it through different kind of systems. If you look there, okay. That's kind of there. If you see the little dot, these are like the engines that will simulate the X number of users versus your systems. And of course, we need to monitor everything in the back end. You might say, why is that needed? Well, in order to evaluate if a system is performing as it should, we need to know the actions. How was the response time? What was the resources, etc. So therefore, we need to monitor it. So in order to put now the pressure on you, I've prepared 3 projects. And that means there's 28 slides in about, this timer's not going, 20 minutes. So I don't know what time now it is. So that's all. Somebody needs to tell me when I need to stop, okay? So first of all, the mobile streaming and a cloud application. Anybody familiar with mobile? Yeah? Okay. So let's first go to the mobile. And now I'm taking you back to 2016. This is an application that was emerging. It came out of an idea, a Belgian company, where they found out they needed to do something more with advertising. And I got a little video that should be starting now. As it was a new company, it had existed out of 5 persons. In fact, the CEO, the technical manager, or the thinker, the idea specialist, and then a couple of programmers in the back end who did programming. But of course, the technology was on its own. They had to have other technology behind there. And this made the whole thing a lot of complex because they asked me to do a performance test on that. It was like, oh, how am I going to do this? Because you have a device, Android, whatever, and you have a television set, and you have everything in the end, in the back end. So you have several parties behind there in order that you need to simulate by doing this in a performance test. So what we're looking at is we try to use a tool. And I used here, for the sake, Neoload, because it captures the traffic going through an iPad. And what we do is we take your device, your mobile device, and we, for the technicians, we use a proxy. That means you direct the stream or the request not directly to the cloud or to the server that's in the backend, but to a recorder. And the recorder captures all those actions. So in order then to use afterwards the playback of the engine. Does it make sense? So that's why we call this a proxy. We are hackers. Performance testers are hackers. We hack ourselves in either to the back end of the application or somewhere on the network. Okay? So therefore, I thought, Neoload. Especially as they wanted to target the Belgian market. And we could use, like say, the Neoload engines and cloud facility to simulate those. Now, the goal itself was they want to have quality and scalability. That was primarily their wishes. But especially with 200,000 downloads, and this was end of 2016. Is there something missing here? 200,000 downloads. What time frame? Another question. Of what? Downloads of what? Is this now the video or the chunks or the audio? We don't know. So what they also wanted to know is the critical points. So that means where does the system break? That can be with 5 downloads already. And the response times. Okay. So for the technology they use for their application is Amazon cloud services. Also, you see the microphone that or the synchronization with the audio, because it picks up the audio from your television set in order to synchronize where it is. And that's open source application and software written by a German university called Muffin. It's not the cake that you want to eat, but it's called Muffin. And they were not so, let's say, sure about the quality at the time because everything was in their, what we call childhood period. It was not mature enough. The communication between the application, well, it's what we call REST over HTTPS. It means it's a protocol. It's a language the application talks to the back-end systems. And we also have those sockets. Sockets is for the technician, it's like small models that capture the information and give it to the others. Now, they added something else. They said, oh, but we have a special proprietary protocol. That means most of the tools don't support it because it's, tool vendors will not do this for 1 or 2 protocols on the world to support this kind of thing. And they said, well, we use wrappers. So in order to translate what comes out of that protocol to XML, what we can read, we have to have libraries. But we don't have those libraries available, not for you for doing the testing because you're outside of our network. We do have this for our own location, but that will be meaning that you will be having binary data. Now, binary data is 5 minutes, okay. Binary data is like, not readable, it's XML, hexadecimal. Yeah, it's numbers and letters and whatever. So forget about that. So when we did testing, we were primarily focusing on the REST protocol. So that means that we captured the audio, we created our scripts, and we played back those requests and calls to the servers. And then we would like to monitor the servers. Oh, well, yeah. Well, that was not possible. But we needed to do this with 40,000 users. Now, this is a small company, not having a lot of money. 40,000 users in a time frame of, let's say, 1 hour or 2 hours, that cost about 20,000 euros. They couldn't afford it. So they created a small SDK for doing the load test on their backend system from their own organization. And on top of that, we needed to prove that the SSL implementation was working, which is the security layer on top of it. Do you think that the security layer is getting a problem? It's decryption and encryption again from all the traffic that goes around. So the result was we avoided the whole thing about the binary and the libraries. We did a simulation of 250 users. That was the consensus with the client. So they wanted to have knowledge transfer. So for me not to come in all the time to do those load testing, we agreed on that, that's fine. But for doing so, they didn't want to use a proprietary tool, so we changed all the scripts and everything we had from Neoload to JMeter. JMeter is open source. It's perfectly working for a tool, and I love it. And we identified huge problems where they're suspected on the Muffin. The Muffin libraries were not working correctly. The Java JDKs were having problems. That means that we could identify those problems and get them solved before they went live. Then the performance test retrospective, so the performance test of 250 users, beautiful graphs, they were happy with it. It was a young company, and from my perspective, they were not specific from the beginning. They changed all the time from one requirement to the other requirement, or one deliverable to the other deliverable. They could have mentioned, for example, that the knowledge transfer should be included. In that end, I would not have to do the rework to change from Neoload to JMeter, because that was costly for us. And the knowledge transfer on its own, well, what they've done is they took the JMeter and they embedded the technology in their own system. Is this about time or not? 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so this is one project. As I mentioned, I had prepared other projects for you. So in case you want to know more, feel happy to join me. And I'm more than happy to show them. Okay, then I thank you. If there are questions? So I put your pressure on you and everybody is done.
I haven't seen any questions in the app, but maybe it's just my mobile. So are there any questions?
No?
Okay, then please don't forget to vote the presenter and see. Oh, sorry.
Apart from this issue, the knowledge transfer, what else could have been, I was wondering myself, could have been an incremental approach, the solution?
Well, for me, I think as it was a young company, they were reluctant to be coached. So every time that I asked things, there was, oh no, we don't need this, we don't need this. And in the end, as testing happened, they did need it. And the planning that I would go to the company, because I did all the load testing and everything on a remote basis, although we live, I would say, My place is about 100 kilometers from that company. We could easily have face-to-face meeting. They always were reluctant in saying, no, 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 we don't have time. We are busy with this, we're busy with that. And I should have put my foot into the door and saying, no, I'm coming. Make yourself free. And the thing is, I was not there. I was there as a subcontractor. So it was a very difficult path of communication, because you always have third parties between them, and you have to agree with all the parties in order to get things done. And coaching would have here be very, very welcome. Now they're successful. Their product is now, they bought an American company as well. So that's fine. But in the beginning, they could have saved a lot of time for everybody in order to be, let's say, agile and be communicative with everybody in the team. Thank you for the question.